The color was porpoise gray. That's porpoise like the dolphin. Porpoise gray. That's the color my wife chose to paint the little sunroom at our house beside our kitchen a few years ago. She loves it when I take on house projects, and this is one that I was eager to do, happy to do. And so I started painting, and the project was coming along very nicely, making good progress. And it was one night while the project was still going on, my wife had her routine night out with her friends, and it was just me and the kids and me by myself. And the kids at this time there were just 3 at this time, and they were ages 5, 3, and 1. And we were on the way home this night, and it was getting close to their bedtime. And as we were coming up, I had a plan. Just get the kids home, get the kids in the house, their PJs on, tuck them in bed. And so I parked the car, and I give very clear directions to the older 2. I had a plan. While I was unbuckling our youngest from his car seat, the girls, the older ones, would be going inside and getting ready for bed. So I tell my 2 daughters, 5 and 3, okay, go inside the house and get your PJs on. And then I remembered that I had left an open bucket of paint sitting in the middle of our kitchen floor. So I add to this instruction, girls, whatever you do, do not go into the kitchen. Go straight to your room and get your PJs on. So I lock the door and I let them in, and I go back and I'm getting our son out of his car seat. And if you know anything about car seats, you know that this is already not good for one's stress level. And as I'm trying to unbuckle him, I hear screaming coming from my house, from the kitchen in our house. And then my oldest daughter says, "Dad, Hannah fell in the paint." And so I hurry at this point, and I go and I try to open the screen door, and randomly the screen door gets stuck. This is serious. The true story here, the screen door gets stuck. So I'm standing there, and I'm hearing screaming coming from the kitchen, and I can't get inside the house. And it's at this point when things begin to go in slow motion. And I have a kid in one arm, keys in the other. I can't get inside, so I kind of step back and give a nice little kick on the door handle, and it opens. And I run inside the house again. This is slow motion. And I round the corner of the kitchen, and I look inside the kitchen. It's porpoise everywhere. But not only is it paint all over the floor, my 3-year-old little girl is lying in the paint, and she's simultaneously screaming and flapping around in the paint. And it was here in this moment when I seriously almost lost my mind. I had this almost outer body experience as I was looking at this event unfold before me, and I could hardly believe what I was seeing. And in a calculated, controlled kind of way, smoke began to bellow out of my nostrils, and I sinned. See, sin is always stupid, and when you sin, you look stupid. But in this moment, contrary to what we might think, anger itself was not the problem. My sin was why I became angry. See, the thing with anger is that it is always a response to something else. Anger is never original. It only exists as an emotion that is reacting to something outside of itself. And this way of thinking is pretty standard when it comes to this topic. A recent book on anger for a wide audience explains that we become angry when we encounter a reality that we find unacceptable. So when we experience something we don't like, something unacceptable, we get angry, which tells us that the only way we can understand our anger is to look at those things that we find unacceptable. And the only way we can really discover the things that we find unacceptable is to look at the things we love. See, human beings are essentially lovers. That's who we are fundamentally. We are affectional creatures. We're worshipers. And what do we do then with the things we love? We care for them. We protect them. We guard them. We advocate for them. And when our loves are threatened, we react. We get angry. Tim Keller has said that anger itself is actually a form of love. Anger is love in motion to protect the things that we really care about, which means the opposite of anger is not being nice. The opposite of anger is indifference. The opposite of anger is not caring about anything, which is untrue about all of us. If you want to know why you get angry, just look at the things you love. And that's where the problem comes in. See, that's why anger, though itself is not sin, is often sinful, because human beings are not just fundamentally lovers, we are broken lovers. We love the wrong things too much. It's what Augustine calls inordinate affections. And you know how this goes. We were created to love God most and best, but as sinners, we value more ourselves and the things that serve us. This is the age-old problem that curves us in on ourselves and hoist up good things as ultimate things. And it's here where anger goes haywire. Sadly, is here that provides the reason why most of us get angry. See, we wish the only thing that made us angry was the careless pizza delivery guy who comes speeding down our street while our kids are playing in the front yard, right? Or we might like to think that it's the horrific injustices of the world that really get us going. But actually, if we're paying attention, we'll find ourselves fuming about little things that inconvenience us. Day in and day out, do you want to know what we Americans get angry about? It's not ISIS or abortion or human trafficking. It's traffic jams. It's when the sticker gets stuck on my new North Face jacket, or when Chipotle doesn't put enough chicken in my burrito bowl, or maybe when we feel underappreciated or something. See, most of our anger, our sinful anger, happens when we are so blinded by our self-consumed love of self that we find reality unacceptable if it is not serving me and giving me what I want. Simply put, if you find yourself getting angry a lot, it's because you love yourself too much. See, the end of our sinful anger can only come by peace deep in our souls. The end of our sinful anger can only come when we experience, by the grace of God, the transformation of our greatest love and devotion. Practically, I think there is one simple question that we can ask ourselves. When the tempers begin to flare, when the stress starts to rise, we stop and we ask this question: what am I loving so much right now that is making me respond this way? In the moment of the temptation, in the moment when you feel the anger coming, to stop and to say, what is it that I value? What is it that I really care about right now in this situation that is making me feel this angry? If I could do it over, and there's been several do-overs, I would have stood in my kitchen, I would have looked out at the porpoise all over the kitchen floor, and I would have asked that question. I would have stopped and I would have thought, what do I really love right now? And I would have God willing, repented, I would have realized in that moment that my real affection in that moment was not my children. When I was standing there, when I was looking at all the pain and hearing all the crying, I wasn't loving my children and feeling concerned for them. All I could think about in that moment was what I had to clean up. How offended I was that they didn't listen. How annoyed I was that I had to wash the paint out of my daughter's hair. I thought I'd have to shave her head. See, in that moment, it was me. It was me. Me. That is who I loved, and that is why I got angry, and therefore that is why it was sin. But it was sin that does not have dominion over me. It was sin to which I am dead, sin from which I am set free. So next time, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, oh, to know the mind of Christ. That's what we need. To love what he loves, to desire his glory, to be melted by his grace, to soak in his supremacy and pursue his will so relentlessly that even in the midst of chaos, when there's paint all over the floor or when people are reviling you, that we can, like him, love others more than we love ourselves for the greater joy that is set before us. Jesus, help us to love you, to love what you love, to love others in your name, because that's the only way we can end our sinful anger. Amen.